John gave me a card from a divorce lawyer 1 month after not seeing him. He didn't ask if I was okay or how I felt. He's divorcing me, and since I don't work, he'll pay $1,000 a month as alimony. John chuckled and said, "Take care," while Emily stood beside him with a smug expression. I agreed to the divorce casually, surprising John, but he and Emily shared a smile. John isn't a big thinker, which makes my revenge plan easier. After the divorce papers got approved, I decided to start my revenge plan on both of them. I'm Sarah Wolf, a 47-year-old illustrator and children's book author who loves drawing. John and Emily are my childhood friends, and John is my husband. Everything started when John asked me out as I was about to go to a different college after high school. I was surprised because I thought he liked Emily, but since I secretly liked John, I couldn't say no to him. After thinking about it and talking to Emily, I said yes to John's proposal. Emily had some issues with her behavior since our teen years, but she was still a dear friend to both John and me. Emily had a habit of taking other people's boyfriends and then breaking up with them once they got too obsessed with her, causing problems repeatedly. Her parents were worried, so John and I spent time with her to look out for her. John and I got married at the age of 25. 4 years later, Emily introduced her fiancé, George, into our lives. He worked for a top-tier company. Nice to meet you, Sarah and John. I've heard so much about you. Looking forward to our future together. George was very polite, and we all became friends immediately. We would hang out during holidays and vacations, going on trips or long train rides to enjoy some drinks. However, things started going wrong after Emily became pregnant 2 years into her marriage. John and I had many siblings, so we weren't worried about having kids. We decided not to have children. We liked kids but didn't want the responsibility. Plus, we enjoyed our freedom to travel and have drinks. We thought families with children were heartwarming, but it was never more or less than that. When Emily told us about her pregnancy, John's behavior changed. He quit smoking because Emily didn't like the smell and even offered to take her to doctor's appointments, using his vacation days. I warned him, George might feel bad if you're always with Emily. But John argued, you have work. She's our childhood friend, and she needs help. You're heartless. I said, I've been buying things and helping as much as I can, but going with her to the doctor is too much. John frowned and glared at me, saying, why? Just because Emily wants it? She's anxious about the checkup, and I can't let her go alone if she's anxious. I replied, that's more reason for George to go with her, right? If you go every time, it's like you're the baby's father. John, feeling jealous, said, you're not going to get pregnant anyway, so what's the problem? He didn't take my worries seriously and instead got angry, saying I was being annoying. We rarely fought during our marriage, but things changed when Emily got pregnant. Our arguments increased, and it didn't stop even after Emily gave birth. John started spending even more time with Emily and their child, Emma. But when Emma turned 6, something happened. It was about the people attending Emma's graduation ceremonies. The day before the graduation, John suddenly started going through the closet. John, what are you doing? You have a meeting tomorrow. John's workplace had a casual dress code, but there was a rule to wear a suit during client meetings, so he always kept a few suits ready. But they were all thrown on the bed. Now, just trying to decide what to wear for the graduation ceremony. What? You're seriously thinking of attending the graduation? Yeah, George can't make it, Emily asked me. Wait, that's absurd. No matter how you look at it, I unintentionally raised my voice in denial. Immediately, John's face turned sour. I knew he sometimes picked up Emma from kindergarten, and I had done it too when asked, but it didn't make sense for a childhood friend who wasn't even Emma's biological parent to go to a graduation ceremony. What? You still doubt me and Emily? I'm disappointed that you can't even help out. That's not the point. Anyway, I'm attending the graduation tomorrow, so iron a shirt properly. John said that and abruptly ended the conversation, leaving me behind and going to the bedroom. I had no choice but to call Emily. Hello, Emily, about tomorrow. Sorry about tomorrow. I'm borrowing John, but won't George be upset about the graduation attendance, Sarah? What are you talking about? Obviously, I haven't told George that the graduation is tomorrow. I'll tell him after the ceremony. I was surprised to find out that George didn't know about the graduation plan. When I asked more questions, it turned out that Emily hadn't told George about any of the kindergarten events, and John had been acting like Emma's dad at the kindergarten, which felt really selfish. Wait a minute, Emily. Isn't that really unfair? It's not right to George, just because he's a childhood friend, right? What's the problem, Sarah? You're scary. Well, see you tomorrow. Wait, Emily. I was really mad at Emily, who hung up the phone without listening. Anyway, I ended up ironing a shirt, getting a tie ready, and the next morning, I saw John off to Emma's graduation. After that, John and Emily started going out more, from once a month to once a week, and then 3 times a week. Eventually, even George started to get suspicious. One day, while John and Emily were out, he came to our house alone. I'm sorry for coming so late. There's something bothering me. Is it about them? Yes, I want you to look at this. George showed me the GPS history he put in Emily's car. It showed that she was staying at a hotel 3 times a week, every time she was out with John. Just by looking at George's face, I understood what that meant. What do you want to do, George? I want to get back at those two. Me too. I can't forgive them for betraying us after all this time. We secretly planned our revenge. First, I worked on making more money because I had been saving by doing housework and taking care of Emma, and my income had gone down a lot. George started working from home, and when Emily and John went out, he brought Emma to my house, and we took care of her together. Emily and John didn't know we were aware of their relationship, so we gathered solid proof. Once we had enough evidence and were ready for revenge, we found out a surprising truth about Emma. George and I struggled with the decision, but we agreed not to hurt young Emma. So we decided to wait until she was an adult to get our revenge, even though enduring it for 10 years was tough. Then, I got seriously ill. I needed long-term hospital care, and at best, I wouldn't be discharged for at least 2 years. Even though I could work from the hospital, I would have to reduce my workload. After telling George, I talked to John about it. But John's reaction was the same as when we had small talk. I'll visit you once in a while, he said. I felt like John didn't care about me anymore since he didn't ask about my condition or the name of the disease. In reality, he only visited once a month or every 2 months. After Emma's 15th birthday, she started acting differently, even though she used to visit me almost every day right after I got hospitalized. She became distant after her 15th birthday, but George and I couldn't figure out why, and we were confused. When we asked Emma, she just said, "Don't worry about it." However, we found out the reason from John, who rarely came around. Hey, it's been a while. Yeah, it has. John, who had completely changed his appearance, walked in without even knocking. After not seeing him for a month, John gave me a divorce lawyer's business card without asking, "Are you okay?" or "How are you feeling?" Divorcing a wife who doesn't work. Pay me $1,000 a month as alimony. That's the deal, so take care, John said, grinning. Beside him, Emily wrapped her arms around John's with a similar expression. Fine, let's divorce then. I agreed casually, surprising John for a moment. But he quickly exchanged smiles with Emily. It was good that John didn't think too deeply. That's why my plan worked well. After getting a notification that the divorce was finalized from John, I decided to start my revenge plan against the two of them. I will make them cry as a celebration of my recovery. I quickly took action. First, I asked George to move hospitals. Then I told my lawyer to mediate between the two parties from now on. George also started acting at the same time. He moved near my new hospital with Emma, and he started to visit me often. Emma still looked sad, but I was happy that she came to see me every day. Most of my stuff was already in the hospital room, so I told John to get rid of the rest. I didn't want to bring anything they might have touched into my new life. After the hospital transfer and George and Emma moving, John called me. I had only left my seat for a few minutes, but my phone showed 30 missed calls. I answered the phone feeling annoyed. What? Hey, what's going on? I could hear a troubled real estate agent behind John's panicked voice. I also heard Emily yelling, which made me feel sick. What do you mean? What's going on? It's obviously about the house. Why do we have to move out? John shouted at me as if it wasn't his fault. I replied coolly, obviously because that's my house, huh? John seemed to have forgotten. But the truth was the house we lived in was a room I rented as a workspace when I started freelancing. At that time, I didn't have enough money to keep two houses, and John didn't have enough to live alone, so he moved in with me. So John never paid rent or utility bills for that room. Although I got some money from him for living expenses, it wasn't enough to keep the place. Unfortunately, that room was already canceled. It was far from the hospital I transferred to, so I canceled it the day after submitting the divorce papers. I didn't tell him because the real estate agent who knew the situation said they would contact him. George and Emma suddenly disappeared, and our house was sold. What should we do about our new house? I don't know. Maybe stay in a business hotel for now. As I turned on the speaker and started working, John yelled in frustration, "Don't mess with me." However, he seemed to remember something and started speaking more calmly. Well, whatever. When will you transfer the money? We're running low on cash. What are you talking about? Huh, don't play around. I told you to pay $1,000, didn't I? Oh, I don't recall agreeing to that. My casual response made John scream on the other end of the phone. It turned out he thought he could get money from me and had been spending it recklessly. Even if he had $1,000 left, how did he plan to get by for the rest of the month? Hey, don't just stay silent, say something. There's really nothing to talk about. My comeback left John momentarily stunned, but he soon started yelling again, growing more annoyed. I spoke to John in a cheerful tone. Anyway, we're basically strangers now, so please don't contact me anymore. You'll hear from my lawyer. Huh, lawyer? Hey, wait a minute. I hung up without listening to John's response. He tried calling back several times, but I ignored it, and eventually the calls stopped. However, angry that I didn't answer, John started ignoring calls from my lawyer. He certainly had a childish side, but I never imagined he'd be the kind of person who didn't mind causing trouble for others. I sighed deeply because of John's selfishness. A few months later, after a short break from the hospital, I went to John's parents' house. In front of me were John and Emily, both looking small and scared. Telling my parents is not fair. Oh, I just told them that we got divorced. John glared at me when I said that, but he backed off under his father's stern look. I had a good relationship with my in-laws, even visiting and eating with them when John wasn't around. Even though they liked me, I thought it was wrong not to share the details of our divorce, so I went to see them. Is it true that you're marrying Emily? Yes, it's true. True. Emily, Emma, and I are going to start over as a family. What are you talking about? Your only family is Sarah. She's not my family anymore. John's words made his father frown like saying, "Give me a break." John shook his head a few times, then gave me a paper. It was a bill from a luxury hotel nearby. What's this? It's the bill from the hotel we stayed at. John, acting like it was obvious, pointed at the bill on the table, then suddenly collapsed. Oh, what the heck, Mom, I didn't raise you to be like this. My mother-in-law, gasping for breath, was met with a look of disbelief from John. Next to him, Emily wore the same expression. Why are you so angry? It's just that the family is changing because I'm getting married. Plus, you'll have a grandchild, a blood-related one at that. Aren't you happy? My mother-in-law, looking as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing, glanced at Emily. Then she looked at me. Both my in-laws understood that I didn't want children and still treated me like their own daughter. They treated Emily, my childhood friend, in a similar way, but there was always a boundary between a daughter-in-law and a friend. I remembered Emily often complaining about that, so I was sure my mother-in-law wouldn't be happy about this situation. And Emily should have known it too. Do you spoil Emma, right? It'll be your grandchild, so you'll be happy, right? It's because she's a child I've known since she was little. Oh, but half of her blood is from John, right? Even after all this, Emily, showing no sign of remorse and acting like she couldn't understand the problem, gave me goosebumps. At that moment, someone who had been silent until now spoke up. Enough already. It's disgusting, huh? Emma, who had been playing with her smartphone in the corner of the room, spoke to Emily without looking up. The room fell into stunned silence. My dad is the only one I consider my father, whether we're related by blood or not. He's the only one. But you know, John has always been the one to attend your school events. I've heard everything from Dad. How he was always informed of the event dates after they were over. How eventually even the events themselves were kept from him. But Dad always said I was his daughter, so I am his daughter, and I will never be yours. Emma stared at Emily as she said this, then, sitting beside me, she switched to a more concerned tone. You know, when I found out about this, I thought you would hate me. But Dad said that wasn't the case, so I came here today. Emma, I love you so much. You were so kind to visit me every day while I was in the hospital. I was really happy, Sarah. Emma, maybe feeling relieved, teared up and hugged me tightly. Even though she might be a child from John and Emily's affair, I've taken care of her for 15 years. There's no way I don't have affection for her. Speaking of which, Emily, didn't you wonder why I wasn't surprised when I found out Emma is John's daughter? Ah! Emily looked startled before she could speak. A new person entered the room. We knew from the start, 10 years ago, actually, George. Emily started to panic when George suddenly appeared. Understandably so, as she had recently demanded a divorce on her own, citing irreconcilable differences. I was shocked when you mentioned divorce. Oh, and unfortunately, you're not divorced yet. The divorce papers are still here. Didn't you notice? What I realized. It wasn't in Emily and John's nature to confirm things, but I couldn't help but be stunned that Emily, despite the 100-day waiting period for women to remarry, hadn't noticed for months. So Emily is still my wife, and Emma is still my daughter. Well, there won't be a wife, though. Wait, what do you mean a 15-year-old can choose their parent? That's not true. Emma wants to be with Mom, right? Emily said that and looked at Emma. Emma frowned at Emily and held my hand. Emily was speechless and glared at me. Then John suddenly burst into laughter. So that's what it is. You two are together, huh? But too bad. Isn't it impossible to live on George's salary alone? Can you stop making weird assumptions? Also, it seems George earns double the amount you think Emily knows about, huh? It's probably a bluff, lol. Besides, it's impossible for you to work while dealing with your illness. You'll just die miserably somewhere. This time, I laughed at John's big misunderstanding. John, seeing me suddenly start laughing, was getting frustrated. You didn't know about my income, did you? Huh? It's probably just a bit more than a part-time job. No, it's different. My annual income is $500,000. John's eyes and mouth were wide open in shock. Emily was also stunned. In fact, over the past 10 years, I had become a popular children's book author, and my income had skyrocketed from essays, interviews, and the like. Moreover, a film adaptation is planned soon, so my income is skyrocketing. Liar. Oh, do you want to see this? I said that and showed Emily my bank account screen. It clearly showed a large amount of money being deposited every month. Emily was at a loss for words when she saw it. Sarah, let's all make up, huh? What are you saying? Emily was furious at John's words. Blinded by the money, I watched them blankly and then opened my mouth. Well, if you want to get married, feel free. Oh, and I'll definitely take the compensation for damages, Sarah. Wait, Sarah. Ignoring John's words, I took Emma's hand, and after saying goodbye to my in-laws, I left their house. John originally worked at my father-in-law's company, but it was revealed that he was lying about going out for sales, and he was fired. my father-in-law planned to forcibly put him on a friend's fishing boat and work him to the bone. Working on a fishing boat was tough for indoor-loving John, and he contacted me several times, but each time I notified my father-in-law, and eventually the calls stopped. Emily lost the right to take care of Emma and got divorced from George. She didn't care much about John, who couldn't afford many things and didn't try to win her back. She was no longer a part of her family and lived alone in a not-so-nice apartment. She hadn't worked since she got married, and because she always had others do things for her, she couldn't do much on her own. It was tough for her to find a full-time job, so she worked several part-time jobs to pay for her living and child support, just managing to get by. After starting high school, Emma worked really hard every day to study abroad and attend a prestigious university overseas. She has always been diligent, and her dream is to translate my picture books and share them with kids all around the world, which makes me happy. As for me, my picture books are doing well, and I'm getting more offers for turning them into animated shows and selling merchandise. My illness is getting better, and even though I'm still in the hospital, the doctor said I might be able to leave next year. And one more thing, George and Emma come to see me every day. Recently, George expressed his feelings for me, thinking about remarrying. I haven't given an answer yet, but I find myself liking him more, especially since he wants to live together when I leave the hospital. While figuring out what to say, I continue working on my picture books every day, hoping for a happy future for all of us. I create new stories again today,